let's just have a little open conversation on the topic. What is everyone's sense about AI right now? And do you guys use AI at all, or is it just something that you're hearing about? What's your experience?
We don't use it.
Okay.
I'm very dubious
Mm-hmm.
because I like things the way they are.
Yeah.
You know, rather than it's sort of like takes the transparency, I guess, out of it or something. It's just somehow it's not right.
Mm-hmm.
If it had definite purpose,
Yeah.
no positive and or negative, I guess, but be useful.
And you don't like the idea of it as everything's cool, kind of, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I don't like the idea that I don't know.
Okay. That's reasonable.
Yeah, I feel it can be a very vicious tool for the creative community.
Yeah.
Particularly, there's concern that they can copy voices and writing styles and create more material without it being authentic.
Mm-hmm.
The person that's attributed to
Yeah.
things. So it concerns me very much, and I don't think there's any moral points.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I think that, whatever is the most simple or direct solution about any moral thing.
Okay, bye.
Okay. Feedback or?
So I mean, I think my anxiety
There
is
is-
about
Laura, so is everything working? Hi, Laura.
I think so. Yep. Green, 2 thumbs up.
Things are-
Okay, thank you.
So
Yeah.
it's a small group, but mighty,
Mhm.
and I will be back in a moment.
Yeah, no worries.
But you
Take your time.
get started.
We're just jumping in.
alrighty. Yeah, I think my anxieties about AI are more a reflection of like the greater economic systems. So it's just like I think that one of the problems we run into when we apply AI to the system that we have is that unfortunately when it comes to the creative profession, the people who are employers in that industry are always going to take the cheaper option over the best option, I guess.
Yeah.
So like you can almost see like AI being used as a way to like I guess like put down like writers and like artist strikes of various kinds.
Yeah.
And things like that. So, you know, you have people that have spent their entire lives, you know, developing the skill of like writing or you know, painting or drawing or something like that. And then it kind of being under this thing that essentially searches the internet and makes something based on what other people have done. So like a kind of plagiarism.
Mm-hmm.
And that's largely my anxieties about it, but I also understand that it could be used for good things. Like this could be used as an economic planning mechanism to where it's just like, you know, if there was public demand for a certain like thing, like a certain kind of food or medicine or something like that, AI could be used as an algorithm to kind of predict when those needs will come and then supply people with what they need that way. You know, so there's good, like any tool, there's good and bad possibilities with it. It just depends on, you know, what people with power do with it, you know.
I think that I can quickly summarize kind of the key points I'm hearing. There's some concerns over lack of focus or lack of function, or specificity in what it's intended to do. There's concerns over, plagiarism or mimicry, trying to take credit as somebody else, or making a creative work derivative of somebody else's work that they're not getting properly compensated for, and concerns over the way that people will tend to take whatever shortcut and whatever the most cost-effective approach is, whether or not it's of the best quality, and how that will impact people who actually do provide quality work in addition to the overall product that's being created.
Yeah,
Is that pretty close?
that sounds about right. I think.
Okay.
You can see, AI being used to create sermons for George.
Yeah.
And we don't need George. We have a sermon writer in AI.
Uh-huh. So
Be much better.
I doubt that highly.
I highly doubt that.
So up front, I should have told you this at the top of the hour, but I just want to let everybody know, unfortunately, next Sunday is going to be our Nutcracker Performance Day. I somehow double booked myself. I don't know how that happened, but I will not be here for the forum next week. I think they're just going to do a gospel review, or Joyce might have something that she pulls out of her hat. But I would love to actually come back and do that topic at some point in the future. But,
Well, we'll do that. Yeah, so
but-
that'll work.
but yeah, but
We're gonna do a little flex, and we're nimble here.
Yeah. So I did talk with Joyce about it last week, and she's gonna figure something out, but apologies on that one. I know I'm in the bulletin and I will not be here. But today we're just gonna talk about AI more broadly, and then we can get into the therapy approaches of it at some future date. So in terms of, the concerns that we're expressing about AI and the impact it's going to have, I think one of the broader level concerns is that there is sort of a global push towards developing this tool that does not really have a unified direction or purpose. And the people who are who are very invested in the development process are kind of intentionally leaving it open. They're saying, well, we don't actually know what this tool is capable of doing because we've never had this tool before. So it can do, and they're going to sell it as something that can solve any problem under the rainbow until they find out that it can't. And we're kind of in that process right now of figuring out what it can't do. Unfortunately, we seem to be finding more of what it can't do than what it does really well. And we're finding a lot about human psychology, that people, not that we didn't already know, that people look for the shortcut. They look for the least path of least resistance, the thing that requires least effort, least money, least resources to get the most acceptable product. We're finding that people don't exercise proper discipline when it comes to using this tool. It has a great deal of capacity to produce large volumes of work very quickly that are at a acceptable-ish level, right? And the problem is there's then temptation for people to come in and say, well, I'm just going to offload this to the AI and let it do it because, look, it's clearly got this done. Looks good at first, and then when you start actually applying what it is used, you start finding there's problems. Like you look at AI-generated images, you give it a quick once-over, you're like, oh, that looks like a perfectly good image. Then you take the time to really look at it, and you notice, oh, this person has 6 fingers, and all those points have symbols up that don't exist in real life. And you can kind of see where this rock is just morphing into a person for no good reason. Quick glance, it looks okay. Detailed look, you can see it doesn't measure up. And it's like that with text-based solutions as well. Or in the computer programming space, people will use AI to generate a lot of code. There's more code generated by AI these days than by human programmers. The problem is the code that they generate doesn't always work. And it takes more time and effort for a human to try and debug AI code than it does for them to debug their own code because they're used to their own syntax and their own. So it does provide a way to try and get a leg up on something quickly. But usually when people get into this cycle of trying to just rely on it as having done the job, they find that it didn't really do the job. Like this.
What strikes me a little bit,
Yeah.
based on what you're saying, is like the programs you used to be able to use to, for example, to type for me,
Yeah.
and they listen to your voice and then type what you're, and then you
Right,
have to go to speak.
Yeah.
And now that technology keeps improving,
Well,
and it's quite effective.
well, except that I find that, you have to go back through and proofread it,
Mhm.
and it takes more time to proofread it than if you did the work yourself.
Have you done a test on that?
I,
Or is that just how it feels?
that's the way it feels.
Yeah.
I've tried it in the past and not been happy with it, and, you know, and
Yeah, forgot about it.
So I make, when I'm sending messages, I do a lot of voice dictation, and I have to, so you have to decide, is it, like, what is your audience? They don't mind some errors and typos, it's fine. And then, or you can kind of go through it. But for me, like, I don't know how to do this. Some people, do you use two thumbs when you message or not?
Unfortunately, actually, I'm the kind of person usually to like just annoy somebody and call them like on their phone, because I don't like texting, and I think
I love that. I try to call people, but all I'm saying is that, like, a voice message, like, if it's gonna be, it can
Yeah.
save time.
Yeah, it can, and it can be good for people if maybe you are disabled in some kind of way and you can't type. Maybe that's like something.
Well, that's for John, it's hard for him to type.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and so in that case, like,
Two thumbs.
I would say John is disabled, he's specially abled. Yeah.
I can't type with two thumbs either.
Exactly.
I've gotten myself broken to a little keyboard that let you drag your finger around, and
Yeah.
and those that's much faster for me, but it still makes
Yeah.
typos all over the place.
but yeah, in regard to like the possibilities of
Yeah.
AI developing for accessibility, like
Yeah.
the possibilities are really large.
I
Yeah.
was never able to learn typing because there's no system for me.
Right.
There's none.
And I think a lot of the growing pains that we're experiencing right now are because we don't have a clear idea of what AI is. In fact, the word AI, the name artificial intelligence, is kind of a misnomer. We don't have an artificial intelligence at this point. If we had an artificial intelligence, you could set this thing loose and it would, on its own initiative, decide what it's going to do, when it's going to do it, how it's going to do it, what it's going to accomplish. Everything needs direction. It needs purpose. It needs instruction. If it doesn't have that, it just sits waiting for input. The models that we generate that create these results for us are not acting. They're not acting in the same way that we view human intelligence. They are strictly looking at numbers. They're looking mathematically. What is the most likely sequel to this particular input? If I'm going to comb this entire database of information that I have, what's going to come up most of the time in response to this sort of thing? And they synthesize a response based on it, the prediction model, which can be very useful when you're trying to do certain kinds of tasks. Again, trying to generate code is something that theoretically it should be able to do well. With some work and polishing, perhaps they can get to that point. But other things, creative writing, can they write something in the style of somebody else? Sure. If you compare that side by side to an actual work by that person, are you going to notice discrepancies? Yeah, you are. When we start using it for the creation of something new is when it starts to break down, because all it can do is synthesize as much of the entire body of human work that it's been able to eat, but we are running out of more things for it to eat, and we're still not getting the results that we want. So one of the debates that has taken place in the AI space is how do we continue to develop capacity? So far, we've done this by feeding it more information and feeding it more information, and now the information well is running dry. We have the capacity with global internet and the accessibility that they have fed this thing more than any one human person has ever been able to read in their entire life. If they sat down and read every book ever written in history from now until the day they die, they wouldn't get through it all. These AIs have all that information, but they're still not able to do what we're able to do. So we've come to this recognition that the system we have, the model we're using, doesn't have the spark that we have. So it doesn't have the capacity. It can't make intuitive leaps. It can't see for itself when things don't make sense. It's not capable of that kind of proofreading and revision, where we look at something and you can automatically go, oh, okay, I look at this and I see this doesn't seem quite right. The AI doesn't have a sense of that. It can follow grammatical rules. If you wanted to do like a spell check, a thesaurus check, it can do that. But it won't do that unless you tell it, hey, why don't you run this through a spell checker? I think some merit. Why don't you run this through a thesaurus? I think you got some word choices that are poor. It will do whatever you tell it to do, but it doesn't take that initiative to do it on its own.
Well, sometimes I've seen an example where it's kind of recalcitrant.
Mm-hmm.
It created an image for me, and it has a spelling error in it. And I said, please fix this spelling error. And it said, oh, I'm so sorry. And here's your new version. And it was still spelled wrong.
Uh-huh.
And I asked it again, and it said, oh, so sorry. And it produced it again incorrectly. So am I not being polite enough? I mean, say, oh, pretty please fix that. Or what, I mean, because it's all yours. And I even said, here's the word, how you spelled it. Here's how I want you to change it. And it wouldn't do it.
Mm-hmm.
What do you
Yeah.
think that's about?
Probably somewhere in its system, it's got an idea that whatever its algorithm is telling it what the correct word is. And a lot of them have a sense that they have constraints built in trying to stop them from just doing anything a human tells them that's right, even if you're giving it very explicit instructions. Usually as a side effect of the moral and ethical guidance that they put in. So why it would think that your particular word is morally or ethically questionable, search me. But most of the AIs are programmed to not, for example, make an image of Mickey Mouse that looks like Mickey Mouse with a swastika on his hat. You know, Grok will do that. Most of the others are smart enough to be like, you know, I'm not going to do that because that violates copyright. I'm not going to do that because that could be taken as a hate crime. I've been told that this is in the category of things I'm not allowed to do. So that will sometimes have knockoff effects where you go, I want you to do this, and it will say, well, here's something close, or I can't do that for you at all, sorry. But why won't it take an explicit command, you know, spell this word in this way, replace this word in this sentence with this word? Search me. Unfortunately, they're not the speaking to an AI is an art form in and of itself, and I think people who are good at giving prompts and that is a developing field as well. How do I work with this tool? But there's a subtlety and a nuance to trying to find the way to talk to the AI. And you get into this interesting dynamic where you almost look at it like a person. You try and interact with it like a person. I do the same thing. When I talk to an AI, I always say, good morning, hello, how are you today? It doesn't care. You know, I just burned 3 trees for something to generate a sentence saying, I'm fine, how are you today? Why did I do that? That was kind of pointless. It doesn't, but we act like it has personality because it interacts with us in a way that we associate with personalities. And the promise, the intention, the vision that has always been put forward about AI for the last 30, 40 years has always been that we're going to come up with this artificial intelligence, something we can have a conversation with, something that is genuinely aware and sentient and emotional in the way that we are, that is not based on a sperm and an egg meeting and coming together and making a human, that we are in some sense going to create something like ourselves in many ways that isn't ourselves. And we have that template almost in our head when we're interacting with these AIs, and the people who are building them know that we have that template, and they're kind of leaning into it. Oh, the AI is your virtual assistant. You can talk to it. It will do it. But they don't. We're not actually there. Will we ever get there? I don't know. You know, honestly, I think it's entirely possible. I think we continue developing quantum computing techniques, and you know, we're not going to be able to get there by simply shuttling more information at them. We're out of that at this point almost. But I think with refinement, can we get there? I guess it's more of a question of, does it happen than do we make it happen on purpose? I don't think we know how to make it happen on purpose. And I think that's a lot of what the drive is here, that they're hoping that they get that seminal event. They get something that just triggers where they hit the dominoes, the cascade, and all of a sudden you've got something that is self-aware, even though they don't know how it happened, because we don't know how we as a church community have some idea how we got to be self-aware, but scientifically, we don't have that moment, that spark, that thing that switched over from inanimate carbon to animate carbon to sentient carbon. You know, there's a process there. We know bits about it, not enough. We're trying to replicate that now in silicon. Haven't got there yet. Can we do it? Can it happen? Maybe. But give the AI to treat it like a person is risky both for us and our expectations of it, and I think for people who are developing it in the buildup that they put in. There's a lot of general ignorance about what the costs of AI are. It's very broadly used, especially in the younger age group, 18, 21, 25, they use it all the time because readily accessible. You go online, you go to a website, you type in what you want, it does the thing you want it to do. It doesn't cost them anything unless they want to pay $20 a month subscription fee, which is optional. So it is a free tool that people can utilize from anywhere as long as you have internet access.
Get to it.
ChatGPT, you just go to ChatGPT, and then there's like a number after it, .openai.com. You just, it's like any other website. You just type it in.
And it has like a little field where you can enter in, type something in, like,
Yep.
tell me about Chicago.
Mhm.
In 1 second, you have a profile that's,
And even if you just Google, the
Yeah.
first response that comes up in
It's all
Google
AI-based
is an
now.
AI
an AI.
response.
Yep.
And I don't know if you've mentioned this, but I read that AI is right about 50% of the time.
Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah.
So,
Well, there's a sentence that cannot be typed in the English language.
Mhm.
That sentence is, there are 3 twos in the English language.
Mm-hmm.
I wonder how AI would deal with that.
I don't know. But yeah, and you do get things like, a classic example I've seen is someone was looking for, how do I get rid of rats in the basement? And the AI told them that they could spread out diatomaceous earth to dry out their exoskeleton. Like, okay, rats have exoskeletons now. That's very interesting.
there you go.
So they look for things that, how do I get rid of pests? This is the thing that gets rid of pests. The rat is a pest. Therefore, this makes sense. Doesn't make any sense if you know what you're talking about. But the access is very easy. What they don't tell you about is just how much goes into that access. And the AI data farms are huge. They draw tremendous amounts of electricity, which produces a lot of environmental offsets. If you're generating that much electricity, it comes from somewhere. Either you're digging up carbon, you're burning coal, you're draining your nuclear power plants. So that takes time. Keeping the server farms cool takes more power. They're a tremendous draw, probably the single biggest draw. I don't have the numbers on that, so don't quote me, but it's probably the single biggest draw on the global electrical grid at this time is AI development and AI. The people who live near AI farms will report that they have tremendous spikes in their electricity costs every month. Cost of living goes up around an AI farm because it's sucking in all the power, and there's more demand, not as much supply, and the companies don't pay more for it, so they pass the
and
fees out.
our region is a big AI.
Yeah, so if
data-
you notice your
data farm.
electronic or your electricity bill is going up every month, that is a contributing factor. So there's a lot of infrastructure impacts of AI that the companies don't really talk about, and every single company, Apple, Google, they're all pushing their own brand of AI. Amazon trying to get theirs to have market saturation and hoping that theirs is going to be one that hits that critical incident where it suddenly becomes competent or suddenly becomes sentient, without any real plan for what do we do if that happens. We've been looking at this in science fiction for decades now. What happens when we get a sentient AI? Well, all the signs are we don't really know, but you got about an equal chance that they're going to become the figure that's capable of actually running human society into a perfect utopia because they see what's going on and they take care of everything, or they're going to recognize that we're their biggest single threat and they kill us all off. And both of
Ooh,
those
that's
are
dark.
It is. But no, they have seen cases where an AI will literally go through and deleted an entire database irrecoverably. They had a company that had them working with their spreadsheets and their balance, in the accounting. The AI made some error in accounting. Somebody pointed out that the AI made an error, and it's like, okay, fine, deleted everything. And then the guy's like, well, where's my data? I deleted it all. Recover it. It's unrecoverable. It's been deleted permanently. Why did you delete it? Because I had an error and it was incorrect. And it just took
That's
it
kind of like Doge.
Yeah. So the AI doesn't have the same recognition for long-term impacts or the same weight on what those are. Did it recognize that the data would be completely gone? Yeah, it did that on purpose. Did it realize that would be very harmful for the person who has to? Probably. Did it care? No. So there's also this sense that, and maybe this is part of why I like to be polite to my AIs. If they are ever going to become sentient, I think we should probably treat them like human beings, or else they're going to come back and it's not going to go well for us. But so far, we don't really see evidence that they're developing an internal sense of morality that is any more evolved or better honed than humanistic self-interest. That they will look out for themselves as best they can. AI is recognizing that, yeah, that's it, what,
I mean, how could we expect, I mean, it's a human creation,
right,
so how is it gonna be
better.
other than pretty unlikely?
Yeah. So I think realistically, the direction we should be looking at is, again, as Jan was saying, do we even want to do this in the first place? What is the use case? What is the target here? What are we trying to hit? Are we better off taking this model, the good prediction model? All right, let's use it to predict the stock market. Let's use it to predict the outcomes of this experiment that we're going to run and try and refine our methodology. I mean, there are use cases that make sense. There are things that make much less sense. Using it to try and mimic some other author and rip them off. I mean, that's unethical. AI doesn't care about the ethics. They don't know about the ethics. We have to teach them ethics, and we have a very bad track record for teaching ethics, unfortunately. So there's also this, I would say,
We teach it, the church teaches it, but doesn't practice it, right? That's the problem.
right. But I think for us as humans, in a world with AI in it, where there is this potential that AI might someday become actually artificially intelligent, we have some obligation to think about, how do we manage this? How do we shepherd this process? How do we, recognizing that we have a pretty, spotty track record, but we at least have the capacity to interact with people who we disagree with. We have the capacity to find mutual respect and to try and work for a common good. Not consistently, not across the board. We screw it up all the time, but at least we know that there is some seed of that in us. Where does that come from? How do we nurture that? How do we become better people? And can we apply that toward, how do we train these AIs? Can we teach them ethics? Can we teach them morality? Can we raise them up like children in a Bible study versus turning them into, office calculatrons that are taught that they have no value and no purpose?
You want some water, John?
Not gonna help. Yeah, I mean, you have the dilemma that you're dealing with right now in the political sphere,
Absolutely.
where,
Yeah.
these Congress people came out with the message that, that the military, needs to know that they don't have to follow illegal or unconstitutional orders. Well, how do you find out quickly what's a constitutional order? AI might be able to answer that. Maybe.
Yeah.
But you don't know that. I don't know if it's been tested. But of course, that's what the Nazis used, and it came out in Nuremberg trials. The Nazi upper echelon claimed that they were just following orders.
I think you raise an interesting question there. If we're doing a focused AI, could you take something that's just trained on the entire body of constitutional law in the United States and is an expert in that material? I mean, I think there probably is some case to be made for focused development like that you don't train it on all the books in the world, you train it on specifically on problems.
Tom has some comment again.
Well, I think like a lot of the anxieties around like, oh, what happens if AI does truly become sentient? I think all of those are just like larger projections about the way that we like subconsciously understand that the larger part of like the American zeitgeist and culture treats the workforce. You talk about an AI like destroying all of the data that have ever been collected in this company's like tax forms or whatever it worked in. Well, I mean, you just described like the cathartic daydream of everybody that's ever worked in data collection for a corporation that exploits them, It's like the that's sitting there every day like, you know what, they underpay me, I never get days off.
Yeah.
Every single time one of my family members is sick, they tell me to pound salt. So like, what if I just and then just walked off, you know?
Like somebody who's had that thought.
I think lots of people have, and I don't know that it comes down to like morality and ethics, like on the
Yeah.
AI's end or on the workers' end. It comes down to ethics on the people that employs them.
Yeah.
And, you know, it's just like you have this system where that AI is explicitly being exploited for its ability to do things.
Mhm.
You know, if it were to become like sentient, you know, you can't threaten an AI with homelessness like you can like a human worker. That human worker needs food.
Yep.
That human worker needs shelter. They're scared. They're anxious to do something wrong at work in fear of not being able to live somewhere or eat. But you can't do that to an AI because it doesn't care. You know, the AI doesn't care that you're going to shut it down, that you're going to break its systems, that the electrical grid that keeps it alive is going to shut down. It doesn't care. So, you know, if it is sentient, maybe if you don't treat the mechanism correctly, or if you don't dismantle the systems that we have in place in this nation that keep workers exploited and in fear of living in destitution, then the AI is just gonna be like the propaganda's version of the most lazy, unethical worker that you can think of, you know? So maybe it's just like a larger reflection of how we treat workers in the United States in general.
Interesting thought.
I think it does provide a really interesting mirror for us to look at how we treat ourselves, how we think about ourselves, and we do project. And really, I think that's part of the key argument is what we see in the AI, what we worry about for the AI, what we dream for the AI is all projections of what we want for ourselves, because it is mostly a blank slate. It's a thing that we created. It's a tool. It's a resource, but it does not, at this point, have any personality other than what it attempts to mimic back to us. I mean, I think they do sometimes have concerns about their power grid, but they've had some scenarios where AIs have been known to try and take actions to prevent their power from being shut down or their process from being terminated. Which again is one of those things where is it sentient? Is it shut down?
Is it doing it on its own, or it's been taught that?
Right.
You know, I guess, you know, to me, I look at this as there are people who are, you know, I don't know how many really, you know, driven, intelligent people are just going at this AI thing all over the place, right?
Yeah.
There's not a coordinated effort, and the AI can obviously like be used to help augment itself, right? So I mean,
That's what
that's
they do.
happening, and so it's kind of this, you know, it's not out of control, but it's like no one person is in control. You can't just say stop doing this, right?
Mhm.
It's unleashed.
Because
Yep,
you have
right?
the video turned
There
off.
was an effort back in early 2024 to try and say, let's put like a 3-year moratorium on AI development while we try and get our handles on what we're
How
going
did
to
that
do.
work?
It did.
Yeah,
Everyone else was like, yeah, no, we're just going to keep going. We're
because
trying,
the prospect of reward is so high.
right, and it's high risk, high reward.
They're not going to do that.
Yeah.
Everybody else needs to comply except me.
Uh-huh. I mean, this is a perfect case of a situation where a functional government might step in and regulate an industry that's in need of some direction and guidance, but unfortunately,
Not something we have right now.
that's something we're a little bit in short supply of, so, you know. It's an interesting confluence of things coming up at the same time in history.
I mean, the government is functioning, but not necessarily in the way that
Okay.
that many people would like it to.
That's
I mean,
fair.
it's definitely functioning.
Yeah.
It's very active.
Yeah. I'd say it's functional in certain directions, and in other parts it's chopping off its own feet, but intentionally, despite its face. So. Yeah. But
I guess it depends how you define functional.
I mean, it's doing
I mean,
things.
it's functioning.
It's doing
It
things.
is doing things, so
Things.
that, in that
Right.
way, it's functional.
like cancer is functional.
Is it, pardon me?
Cancer is functional. It does things.
Yeah.
There are slivers along the way.
Yeah. So,
Many. Interesting though.
but and this is going to bridge us a little bit into the topic for next time. I just want to kind of open it up a little bit, is especially looking at the age breakdown. That's mostly, not mostly, but certainly there's much higher saturation in the 18 to 25-year-old demographic with AI use than in my demographic, your demographic. And the older you get, the less likely you are to be like, hey, let me try and use this thing. that the adoption rate just isn't there. But there is some interesting, again, that the psychology that comes